This crossover anime film was simply amazing. Everything about it, the fights, character moments, soundtrack, truly experiencing something only from dreams, the wild brawl between Hanayama and Paing, the absolute insanity demonstrated between Jack Hanma and Raian, and the amazing conclusion with Tokita Ohma vs BAKI HANMA. But that wasn't all. We got potentially some setup for a second film, so spoilers incoming. In the final minute of the film, we had the arrival of Yujiro Hanma wanting to have some fights for himself, and surprisingly, as I predicted, as I wanted, our boy Kuroki Gensai, the Devil Lance, also arrived, demonstrating once again on a narrative level that Kuroki is pretty much viewed as on Yujiro's level, even by the likes of Kakukayo. It was also revealed by Tokigawa and Metsudo, who set up the entire tournament, that they planned to have Kuroki and Yujiro fight. However, due to Yujiro arriving too early, messing up the conclusion of the tournament you could say, unfortunately we got cucked once again and didn't get Yujiro vs Kuroki, but they set up the possibility of a second film, alongside us in the final moments seeing Akoya run into the most evil death row prisoners, which could make up the plot of a second film as well. Imagine some of the Kengan fighters fighting a new and improved version of the most evil death row inmates. That would be absolutely wild, and would be pretty cool considering this crossover universe between BAKI and Kengan, considering it's unlikely that the prisoners will be returning to the main BAKI series, at least anytime soon. Additionally, the crossover manga chapter released by the Kengan authors for BAKI's anniversary, something that led into the creation of this film, is pretty much confirmed as canon in the film, with many references to the past fight between Doppo and the father of Paing, Paing, that we got to see somewhat in the manga chapter, so that was pretty cool, alongside probably all the other stuff revealed in that chapter being canon to this. Apart from all that, our boy the Menace Pickle broke into the tournament and did some pretty funny stuff, with Kano almost going out to fight him. He's pretty much the provided matchup for Pickle within the narrative, also showed in the opening of the film, alongside of course Kuroki and Yujiro. Apart from all that, and before I get into the main fight, there were a lot of other character interactions which were amazing to see. For example, we got various moments between Oliver and Julius, of course a convo about muscles, with them talking about some various training things they've begun doing. For example, Oliver holding down the helicopter and Julius doing a similar thing with the F1 racing car, eventually turning into an argument between the two and deciding the only way to settle it fairly is to have a arm wrestle, which unfortunately was cut by the hands of Goki and Sen, which had various interactions as well, of course the Aikido masters from both respective universes. We got to see Mutaba and Gaia as the guards, with them pretty much being aware of one another, similar roles as mercenaries. More so throughout the film, we followed the Kengan characters, in particular Ohma and Kazi, with them learning about the BAKI fighters, talking about some stuff, revealing the tournament, all that. Something interesting we learned is that the Tokigawa family has all that lore, all those connections to the Kengan Association, and pretty much Japan as a whole, considering many reveals in the BAKI manga. I don't know why or how, but the shake my hand dude, he's here getting more lines than like Jack Hanma, which is pretty crazy. Don't know how he does it, but he's here. We got to see Hanafusa and Shinogi being aware of each other, having passed as well, which was cool. Jerry Tyson and Sayaka from the Kengan universe were the commentators, which is as expected. BAKI doesn't really have commentators like that. We got various moments between Shiba and Adam, which was pretty funny and cool. The music throughout the fights and the entire film was just hype. I actually got chills in some moments, which is probably me just fanboying, but definitely a fanboying worthy moment. For the fight, they pretty much got right into it, very fast paced, which I enjoyed. Around 14 minutes into the film, we already got Paing vs Hanayama starting, and then the other fights were pretty much the same length. I enjoyed the Kengan characters in the 2D animation style. The animation wasn't amazing, but it was good and I didn't have any problems really. I do wish the film was a little bit longer and of course we got more fights, but for a crossover film, the fact that we actually got this, can't really complain too much. I wish we had certain other characters added into the film. For example, Wakatsuki, a key Kengan character, just didn't appear. There were some other BAKI characters, but most of the major ones were here. I was quite surprised that Pickle actually made his way into the film in the quite unique way he did, that's for sure. So, before I move on, BAKI vs Kengan Ashura. Have you watched it? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below. I'm working on a video going over pretty much the broader fandom's thoughts. So if you want to leave your review or just general thoughts down below in the comments, make sure to do so. These two were just all out brawling, which I pretty much predicted. Very fast paced, even for Hanayama, who has a lot of build up moments and is quite the slow fighter when it comes to his fights. That really wasn't the case, demonstrating his monstrous power. And we even got Seki hyping up Hanayama, which was a peak moment, and typical stuff such as lore drops about his back somewhat and him stripping. I was surprised and glad Hanayama used the Vice Grip, a move Hanayama would use quite often in the early days of BAKI, but he hasn't really used it on anyone in quite a few years when looking at the BAKI manga. We got to see Paing being an absolute tank, the Hammer of Burma coming out and winning against Hanayama's punch on a few instances, with them repeating this clash over and over, simply badass. But in the end, Hanayama was able to claim victory as simply a built different Chad, and I'm glad he won in the way he did. It definitely deserved it. This was more so a wild card matchup. A lot of people would have preferred Wakatsuki over Paing, but Paing did a good job. I enjoyed it, and of course had the lore with his father fighting against Doppo in the past. So Jack vs Raian was my most anticipated fight, and in the film I would say it was probably the most hype. Once again, it went right into the chaos, with Raian winning the first brawl. Jack pretty much being all business. We have Raian talking shit and quite a bit of it, while Jack is just not talking and just throwing those hands. The battle pretty much being the genetic monster versus the one who does everything and anything for the sake of gaining power. Raian unleashing his removal was definitely a highlight, looking very badass and monstrous in the 2D animation style. Kakuko of course was aware of it and was the one to explain it in the film, with Jack's attempt to counter it being doping even more, but Raian with his removal was able to dominate for a little bit. Then something occurred I didn't really expect at all. Jack proceeded to vomit out everything, similar to what he did in the Maximum tournament, entering that very strange state known as maxing out, which funny enough was mentioned by Julius, the fellow steroid abuser in the universe, so cool little touch. Being in his skinny state, which somehow makes him stronger, and then the battle between Crazy and Crazy continued, Jack began unleashing his bites, which had like a 2-second scene of them cutting to Okoya, who's like, nice touch once again. But Jack's bites were definitely quite lethal, pretty much munching up on most of Raian's body, turning into a fight to the death. Raian was pretty much destroying Jack's face over and over, and then beginning to choke him out just outright. Very brutal, seeming like he won, but then Jack just got up. It was announced in that moment that Raian was the winner, but he got up and continued fighting, and that's where we had Pickle interrupt the fight. But BAKI kicked Raian down and then Ohma kicked Pickle down. BAKI spoke to Jack being like, yeah, you technically lost, but you can view it as not a loss, you don't have to accept defeat. So that fight's over. Raian got taken away screaming. So not really a complete conclusion, but Jack technically was unconscious for a little bit, so Raian was declared the winner. It without a doubt definitely lived up into the insanity aspect of this film. So I like the cool aspect of them showing Ohma's sleep training compared to BAKI's imagination training prior to the fight, and then after, with them potentially wanting to have a rematch, which could be an aspect of the second film. Additionally, right at the start when they saw each other, the moment that was shown in all the trailers, an earthquake literally started occurring, which is insane and hilarious. In the fight itself, BAKI dropped Ohma right away, with Cosmo thinking BAKI has access to the zone, which is his half a second knockout punch, whatever you want to call it. We got to see Ohma's OP Nico style. Not that many techniques, but a few. I do wish we got more of them, and in particular Ohma's ultimate technique, the Demon's Bane. A key point about their fight is how they're two characters whose whole lives has been spent only knowing about fighting pretty much. BAKI demonstrated his raw talent being off the charts, and how yes, he's young, 18, while Ohma is close to 30, around 28 in the Kengan Ashura days, pretty much being equal in experience due to how much BAKI has been spent pretty much fighting various things his entire life. We got many crazy clashes which were enjoyable, BAKI pulling out the whip strike, which was used to overcome the indestructible Nico style technique, one that was viewed as quite monstrous as it is in any crossverse setting. BAKI's cockroach dash was used, which was overcame by Ohma without much difficulty. We got to see BAKI use Xiao Li, which I believe is the first time he's actually done it. He used the muck punch as well, and even copied Ohma's Nico style in one instance, which is pretty wild. Ohma does technically have the ability to copy, but that's in the sequel manga Kengan Omega. This is Kengan Ashura, so I guess he doesn't have access to it. And then the insanity of Ohma pulling out his advance. He's definitely more orange in the 2D animation style, or in this film, rather than the anime, which is more so red. But looking at the various official color panels of the manga, he's definitely more orange than red, you could say. And then we also had BAKI's Demon Back just coming out, which was pretty badass, with a pretty hype and wild conclusion, with them landing crazy amount of attacks on one another and them both falling, and it, I guess, being a draw. It was technically cut short due to Yujiro pulling up, but I would say the fight was pretty much over and it was declared officially as a draw, making the whole tournament between BAKI and Kengan a draw. BAKI won with Hanayama, then Raian won, and then a draw, but technically Ohma vs BAKI could have kept going, likewise for Raian vs Jack, so take that however you want. We got to see that Yujiro is still the top dog and Kuroki is indeed the top dog of the Kengan Ashura universe, so very hype stuff. I enjoyed every aspect of it. Now before moving forward, don't miss out on all the other wild stuff going on for BAKI and Kengan. For example, we have the next BAKI anime season, adapting BAKI Dao, which is now confirmed to be in the works. The next Kengan Ashura season that is coming out in August, 2 months away. The current BAKI manga providing peak chapters over and over. By the way, it's known as BAKI Raian, get on it. The sequel manga to Kengan Ashura, known as Kengan Omega, still providing weekly chapters for all of us to enjoy. I wouldn't want to miss out on the current tournament. Garuden got an anime on Netflix, a series connected to BAKI in quite an interesting way that I explained in this video. And of course, everything else about BAKI and Kengan is explained on the channel Mysterious Weeb, so make sure you subscribe for more content like this. So boys, we got some serious stuff to go over. Have you guys heard of copium? Or perhaps the protein-filled sus snacks? I guarantee there's something on GamerSupps you mad lads would like, so enjoy my 10% discount code, which if used supports me and the channel directly for more content like this. Thanks for supporting, mainly to these mad lads, the members, but that's it guys, peace.